Maker, and today this is the lecture 4 from the series Particle Nature of Waves. What we are going to study today is X-ray diffraction. So when we have to study diffraction of light, we use diffraction gratings, but unfortunately we cannot use the same diffraction grating for to study X-ray diffraction. Why? Because there is a condition for diffraction. Whenever you have to study diffraction, the wavelength of light used, it should be comparable with the size of the obstacle. That is the main condition for the diffraction. Now whenever we talk about the diffraction grating, it has the spacing, it is comparable with that of the wavelength of light which we use, that is the visible light, so 4000 to 8000 angstrom approximately. But whenever we are talking about x-rays has a wavelength which is very very less. It is of the order of 1 angstrom, so we cannot use grating. So if we have to study x-ray diffraction, we have to use something where uh, where the size of the obstacle, it is of the order of 1 angstrom only. So if you check the crystals, in crystals there is a periodic arrangement of atoms, and the interplanar distance between the two atoms, it is 1 angstrom. So for x-rays we can use crystals to study diffraction. So we use diffraction gratings to study diffraction of light, but unfortunately we cannot use them to study X-ray diffraction, because the spacing between the lines on the grating should be of the order of wavelength of radiation. If we wish to use grating for X-rays, it should have more than 10 raised to 8 lines per centimeter, and it is not possible to have such a grating where you have so many lines per centimeter. It is impossible to make such a grating, and alternative solutions were suggested by Louis and Bragg. So, Louis' diffraction. Louis was aware of the fact that a crystal is made up of regularly spaced atoms with interatomic spacing of the order of an angstrom, and the wavelength of X-ray, it is also of the same order, approximately 1 angstrom. So in 1912, Louis suggested that the possibility of using crystal as a diffraction grating. At Louis' suggestion, Frederick and Nepping carried out an experiment in which they passed a beam of X-rays reduced to a fine pencil by apertures in the sheets of lead at through a crystal, and then onto a photographic plate. After a long exposure, the photographic plates was developed. It exhibited a central spot due to the direct beam of X-rays, and around the central spot were distributed regularly arranged spots, fainter than the central spot. That means it was nothing but the diffraction pattern. If the setting of the crystal was changed, the position of these spots change, and these spots are called as Louis spots. So you can see the arrangement. So this is the Coolidge tube which we use for production of X-rays. So X-rays were produced using this Coolidge tube, and they are made to pass through this three slits, S1, S2, S3, so that we get a fine beam of X-rays. It is made to fall on a crystal, and on the photographic plate we get a diffraction pattern. We get a direct maximum spot, dark spot, or you can say spot with maximum intensity at the center, and around it we get spots with lesser intensity. Okay, so Louis' mathematical analysis was very complicated, but he proved undoubtedly the following. So first point which he proved was X-rays were electromagnetic waves. Second, X-rays could be deflected and their wavelengths could be measured, and the range of the wavelength of X-rays was shown to be 0.13 to 0.48 angstrom according to his mathematical analysis. And third thing which he proved was atoms in crystals were arranged in definite geometrical patterns, and this thing, it was already proved in the field of crystallography, but Louis proved the same thing using mathematical analysis, using the concept of X-ray diffraction. So, what is Bragg's law of X-ray diffraction? In 1913, W.L. Bragg gave a very simple theory of X-ray diffraction. Study of crystal symmetry shows that a number of set of parallel planes can be drawn passing through the atoms, and some sets have more concentration of atoms in their planes than other sets, and interplanar spacing could be different for different sets, and these sets of atomic planes are called as Bragg planes. So, so these are the Bragg planes. So there is a periodic arrangement of atoms, and you can have different planes. So this is one plane where the interplanar spacing it is d1. There is another plane where the interplanar spacing is d2. So here the diagram shows two sets of Bragg planes with different interplanar spacing, and d1 and d2, and we can see that d1 it is greater as compared to d2. So Bragg assumed that these planes act as perfect mirrors for X-rays. So when X-rays fall on them, they suffer specular reflection, and each atom acts as a source of scattered radiation of the same wavelength as that of the X-rays. So you can see this. We have a ray AB which is incident on this, and then it gets reflected, and the BC is the reflected ray. Then we have another ray AB1 which gets reflected, and we get another reflected ray B1D. Suppose we draw two perpendiculars, BE on A1 B1 and BF on B1D, and suppose theta is this angle, okay, and the EB B1 it is theta, and B1 BF that is also theta, okay, and so this interplanar distance it is d, so we know that bb1 this distance is also equal to d. So consider one set of Bragg planes. Let a parallel beam of monochromatic X-rays of wavelength lambda be incident on it, making a glancing angle theta with the planes. Ray AB is reflected along BC and ray A1B1 along B1D. Angle of reflection it is equals to angle of incidence in each case, and if BE is normal to A1B1 and BF is normal to B1D, so that all I have just shown you. Now see this EB1 B1F, EB1 and B1F. This is nothing but the path difference. You can see here the ray is going like this, but this ray A1 B1 B1G it is taking this extra path EB1 B1F. So that is nothing but the path difference. So EB1 plus B1F will be the path difference between the reflected beams BC and B1D, and BB1 also we know that it is D. See, this is BB1, it is nothing but equals to D, okay. So that is nothing but the interplanar spacing. So therefore we have EB1 equals to B1F equals to D sine theta, and if we calculate EB1 plus B1F it will be equals to 2D sine theta. So if this path difference is an integral multiple of lambda, then constructive interference will occur between the reflected beams. That is, they will reinforce one another, and there will be consequently be a maximum intensity in the reflected beam only when 2d sine theta equals to n lambda, where n is an integer. This is very important equation, and this equation it is called as Bragg equation. So let us solve few problems based on Bragg equation. So problem 1, the distance between adjacent atomic planes in calcite is 3 angstrom. Find the smallest angle of Bragg scattering for zero point 0.3 angstrom X-rays. So we have this relation 2d sine theta equals to n lambda, and we have to calculate for the smallest angle. For smallest angle we will have the value of n equals to 1. So we will get 2d sine theta equals to lambda. So sine theta equals to sine theta will be equals to lambda upon 2d. So lambda is 0.3 angstrom it is given, and d interplanar spacing is also given, which is equals to 3. So if you will calculate this, you will get sine theta equals to 0.05. Here it is 0.05. So theta is sine inverse of 0.05, and if you will calculate this, you will get the glancing angle equals to 2.9 degree. Second, problem 2. The first order Bragg reflection in a crystal takes place at a glancing angle of 14 degree 42 minutes. Calculate the angle for the second order Bragg reflection. So for n equals to 1, 2d sine theta 1 equals to lambda. Wavelength is same, so there will not be change in lambda, and interplanar spacing is also same, so d will also remain same. And for n equals to 2, we have 2d sine theta 2 equals to 2d sine theta equals to 2 lambda. Okay, for n equals to 1, we have 2d sine theta 1 equals to lambda. For n equals to 2, we have 2d sine theta 2 equals to 2 lambda. So if you will divide, so we will get 2d sine theta 1 upon 2d sine theta 2 equals to lambda upon 2 lambda. I divided the two equations and I got this. 2d will get cancelled from these two terms here and here, and I will get sine theta 1 upon sine theta 2 equals to half. Okay, so sine theta 2 it is equals to 2 times sine theta 1. Theta 1 value is already given. Do the calculations and check whether you are getting theta 2 equals to 30.5 degree or not. Okay, you should get 30.5 degree. So thank you